Hi there. In this episode, I interviewed Chuck Ingram to discuss Dynamics 365 and the Adobe Marketing Cloud. Listen, it's a great episode, and for all of you that have kind of wondered for some time, what Microsoft's story is around integration with Adobe Marketing Cloud, this is an episode that you really want to listen to. To review the show notes for this episode, please go to nz365guy.com/34. I'd like to thank the generous contribution from our sponsor, iNorgic. Maplytics by iNorgic is a market-leading certified for Microsoft Dynamics 365 geo-analytic mapping app. Maplytics empowers users with powerful map visualization and routing capabilities within Dynamics CRM to drive better sales, improve business processes, and engage right customers at the right time. Maplytics now works with Dynamics 365 version 9.0 and Dynamics 365 app for mobile and tablets. And remember, iNorgic is a leading Microsoft Gold Dynamics CRM ISV delivering best-in-class Dynamics 365 solutions as well as cost-effective and high-quality programming services. So if you need extra resources on your team, reach out to iNorgic. Hi everyone, I'm here with Chuck Ingram to discuss Dynamics 365 and Adobe Marketing Cloud. Chuck works as Innovation Lead for North America for the Digital Sales and Service practice at Avanade. Chuck is hyper-focused on innovating around digital disruption and accompanying customer shifts. He works with his team on developing business models and solutions that deliver customer experience and outcomes, not just projects. He most recently led the CRM practice at another large Dynamics partner for 4 years, where he helped drive innovative solutions that resulted in significant growth. Chuck, it's great to have you back on the show again.
Mark, I am delighted to be back. I always love talking to you, sir.
Excellent. So it was episode 2 that you were on last time for me. So I was a lot, should I say, more nervous than what I am a year on doing this. But
I didn't notice it at all.
The reason I started the podcast was to learn how to become a good listener. That was my only reason. And when I spoke with Joel Lindstrom at the time, who was running CRM Audio, I said, listen, I just want to start a podcast and learn how to get really good at listening and kind of fade into the background. And so, I feel like I've built those skills over the past year. Last week was my year anniversary, and now we're on to year 2. So it's exciting times.
You're doing great work.
Thank you. So you've changed career, you've changed jobs since we last spoke. Tell us about what's happening in the last 6 months that you're now at Avanade.
Well, the interesting thing is it's changed twice since I've been at Avanade. Well, wow. Yeah, so it's exciting. So I joined Avanade to focus on innovation, which, as you mentioned before, is a super passion for me. And it was innovation around dynamic CRM, which we call digital sales and service inside of Avanade. And, it's been an amazing platform that has really gotten me excited about the things that I care about, which are service and entrepreneurship wrapped around this point of view around CRM overall. And you touched on it, changing on how we deliver CRM to get business outcomes, not just project outcomes. Not just project was green and on time, but did the customer get why they bought this for? Did they get what they bought this for? Did they enable their people to give better service? Those kinds of things.
Yeah,
I think
true.
Yeah, and I think CRM is growing like crazy. It's actually passed ERP last year from a couple of the studies that I saw as an industry. They're both still growing. But the thing that kind of bugs me is if you look at Gartner and Forrester and all these folks, CRM customers are only happy about half the time on average. And, I know you had James Phillips on your podcast, and the last time I saw him speak in a public forum, he said that he called sometimes these are like systems of oppression.
Yeah. I remember that.
I think we can solve for that as an industry. I truly believe it's all about taking the focus off the project. Let's deliver the project, but let's make sure we don't forget about what they bought it for and putting the customer and their journey up front and building some automation around the sort of rote kind of things we do every single time in every project. So you create some room to bring in innovation. and serve the users. So they aren't doing air quotes right now, doing CRM. It's just a part of the stack that's serving them and kind of, I guess, like a context that they need at the time they need it so they can serve their customers. And, customers have different expectations now than they used to. They don't always want to talk to a person. So how do we create kind of smart systems that serve the customer what they want when they need it? And Avanade's been working really hard on intelligence, and we call that building an intelligent enterprise. And we've been working really hard on that for quite a while, and at least since I've been here for sure. And about 2 weeks ago, I should say, I was asked to take another role, still focused on innovation, but at a little bigger scale. And they want me to be responsible for running North America, their CRM business. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, it's interesting because, I worked in Australia for some time and, Avanade, they've got a shop there, Accenture's there. In fact, they're in the same building that my wife worked at.
Oh, yeah.
The same office building and everything. And what I found interesting is that in the 4 years I, competed very heavily in Australia and, on a lot of enterprise deals, not once could I remember Avanade coming to the table and being part of that kind of bid process around a dynamic story. As in, they definitely had people in market. I had, people that, wanted to come across to me that were working there. But do they kind of run a different model in every part of the world? Like you talk about Avanade North America there. Is that one business and then there's a different business unit in Europe and maybe the Southern Hemisphere? How does that work?
It is, and that's one of the things they want to have folks like me work on is there's two extremes. One is you can have this global monolithic practice that kind of plods along, and the good news there is you can develop a lot of automation and tips and tricks and little widgets to help things go better. But then you don't feel local. And you don't make the things that the, let's say, Australian market needs or the German market needs. And so even inside of the US, we operate very regionally. We're very focused on local portfolios, local service, local needs of the customers. The Northeast team region needs different things than the Southeast sometimes. And one of the roles that I'll have is how to amplify what we do as a North America to the regions so that it's kind of like we give the best of both worlds. So the idea is to deliver local service, personalized service, but then have the scale and the assets of a global enterprise. And, the guys at Forrester say that we're very, very tip-top right in their chart. So we want to continue to do that and even do better.
Yeah, that's so interesting. One of the things that happened when I went to Australia, I was working in a company and each state had its own practice and business, right? Mm-hmm. And they run totally on a state-based model. In Australia, there's 6 states. All the Australians listening, I know there's more than 6 states, but that's how many we had offices in. And so what the story was is that everyone run autonomously, and it was just ridiculous around the lack of efficiencies that you had in the business. And I convinced the CEO at the time, well, with help of my boss, that we should go to a national-based model. And, it was a light and day difference. We scaled to be twice the size of our closest competitor in country based on, delivery headcount that were actually out delivering projects. And the concept of just running, state by state or even country by country, I think a lot is lost that you can get if you've got a good leader leading a national or even an international initiative that can pull those moving parts together, and actually the sum of the parts can make an incredible business. But it just seems that, a lot of people, I know KPMG are not doing this, and a couple of the other big players, they still run a very much, partner-led model, which only deals in their own territory and in a way don't leverage, what their wider network has available to them.
That makes good sense. I'm hopeful in feeling like we're going to be able to land in that beautiful middle where we are able to take our scale and the IP that's developed nationally and that, all the goodness there, but then with that local service and focus. So that's what we're going to work on.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. Well, it's as you can see, we've got off topic, and
That's okay.
an interesting discussion. But what I'm really
Absolutely.
interested in is having a chat about the story around Dynamics 365 and the Adobe Marketing Cloud. Now, it's been over a year since we've heard of this partnership and agreement between Adobe and Microsoft, but I've heard kind of talk in the market. Is there actually a connector? What is Adobe Cloud? Can Microsoft partners go out and sell Adobe Marketing Cloud? How do they go about it? And then there's others that are just saying, actually, what is Adobe Marketing Cloud? When you're in the Microsoft ecosystem, what is it? So perhaps we could start there and kind of give a definition or your understanding of Adobe Marketing Cloud.
Sure, I'm glad to. And first, I'm from the southeastern U.S., so we like to tell stories. So I'll tell you a quick story. Did you ever see the movie Back to the Future?
Yeah, absolutely.
Remember the square in that Back to the Future?
The square?
Where the clock, the
yes,
downtown
yes,
square?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I used to think my grandpa was very wealthy. And as I got older, I realized he wasn't. He was wealthy in a lot of ways that weren't financial, but he wasn't wealthy in financial. But I thought he was wealthy because when he took me to the store when I was a little boy, and I remember standing in his front seat, which was not safe at all, of the car, but it was before anybody cared about seatbelts.
Yeah, exactly.
But we would go to the town square, and he'd park his car, and it had these big wings on the back of the car and stuff. And we got out and we went in the store, and it was a small grocery store. And I remember the man that ran the store was named Pete. And he would call out to my grandfather, whose name was Gene. He said, "Hi, Gene, how you doing? I've got your groceries ready for you." And he had this red square thing. And my grandpa's groceries were already there. And my grandpa would walk around a little bit in the store and pick a few things. And Mr. Pete would say to my grandfather, he said, "Hey, we got these things in. I went ahead and put them in your pack here. You don't have to take them, but I really thought that you might like it." And I thought it was because he was rich. And he was, but if you think about it, that's kind of what people really want. And they want it at scale right now. So I think what we're seeing now is this convergence of sales and marketing in a way that we've not seen it before. And I saw it when I think it was like my third week at Avanade. I went to the Adobe Summit, which was eye-opening. Like I knew I wasn't as ignorant of Adobe that I just thought that they had the PDF thing. I didn't know that it's a big thing. There's 15, 20,000 people there. Beck was the performer, and they're all these powerful decision makers, and I couldn't take enough business cards, and it was really, really cool. It's a platform. And I'll get definitely headed towards your question. It's a platform. And enterprise customers will tend to make marketing platform decisions. And thinking of Adobe as a platform is a good way to think of it. It's kind of like Dynamics 365 in a lot of ways. It's a big platform, but it has little sections and then apps inside of that, kind of like Dynamics 365. So the Marketing Cloud is a piece of a bigger thing called Adobe Experience Cloud. And it basically has an audience manager for building sort of customer profiles. It has an analytics engine. It has advertising management. They have commerce now. And of course, the part you asked about, which is Marketing Cloud. And Marketing Cloud has, I think, 3 pieces, which one is called Campaigns, which does emails and text messages and so forth to the customer, which is still big. People think it's not. Half the people still want email, and especially if you've opted in. And they have another solution called Experience Manager that's underneath the Marketing Cloud. It lets you create all these kinds of cool landing pages and portals and copy and art for websites and stuff. And there's another really neat thing called Target that lets you tag content that you want to aggregate and track and personalize it. And it lets you do this really cool A/B testing and stuff. at this big scale across your channels. So they have a really big, robust solution. And Microsoft is pretty smartly kind of focused just on the campaign part at first. But the good news is there's a whole lot more there. So when a customer's interested in marketing and they're thinking of a platform, you can start to think about this Adobe solution so that you can have that dialogue and it can be a long-term journey with the customer.
Wow, that's really interesting. Is it really pitched only at the enterprise end of town as a solution? As in, I assume there's a price point, which is a barrier to entry for a certain size of business. Is that the case with the Adobe Cloud?
Well, yeah, in a lot of ways, you think about it, there can be either scale or complexity. And you can think of like an enterprise customer that has a lot of scale and they send a lot of emails and they need to know a lot of things about their customer. I think they say 60% of a decision is made before you even engage the sales team now. There's all this stuff that goes on around paid search and organic search and social search and all those things. That all happens. At a big company, they're going to definitely need those things. But then sometimes you have smaller companies that are very, very marketing focused and they do a lot of business online. They maybe would be a good prospect for something like Adobe too. So it kind of depends on scale and complexity.
Yeah. Okay. So Microsoft's current recommendation in market is that, if you're dealing with an enterprise customer, don't use Dynamics 365 for marketing, but you should use Adobe Marketing Cloud. Are you seeing more that customers are either already on Adobe Marketing Cloud and let's say they've been sold Dynamics 365 and there's an integration story there? Or do you see that there's really a space for partners that already, let's say, have, enterprise clients that then they want to turn around and go, hey, let's rip out whatever marketing platform you have in place and put Adobe Marketing Cloud? What's happening?
I think it's both. In my deep career with Adobe of 6 months,
Yep.
I think I've got a little bit of evidence that says it's both, right? My first job and we were talking before the podcast about the ocean, I wanted to live in Charleston, South Carolina. And the only job I could find in Charleston was selling copiers, which was my indoctrination into sales.
Was that with Xerox?
It was with 3M.
Okay.
And I sold 3M copiers, and the only interaction I had with marketing was I would occasionally get a lead. So marketing was just like the top of the funnel, and I'd get a lead, and it could have been like the window washer at this law firm. But I'd push this copier down these cobblestone streets in Charleston, and it's 100 degrees, and I'm sweating, and I push up, and I go in, and this lawyer who could charge his time at $400 an hour would have 5 of his attorneys or her attorneys looking at this copier. And why was that? They needed me for information. Now they have the information, so probably there's not nearly as many copier salespeople. So sales and marketing are kind of coming together. And I think Salesforce and Microsoft are both recognizing that. And there's this battle shaping up between those two. And remember just a few years ago, you'd go into a pre-sales meeting for CRM and marketing was never there. And then pretty soon marketing was at the end of the table. And then there's 2 or 3 marketers there. And then now it's a sales and marketing together a lot of times. So, and Microsoft's not been strong in marketing in the past. And now with Adobe, we are. Now, this is going to take a minute to explain, but I think it's important for folks who are thinking about this to kind of get their arms around. Customer expectations have changed, like we just talked about. They don't want products and services. They want experiences and outcomes. That's what Mr. Ray Wang says. There's a big buzzword, but it's real, called experience systems out there. Salesforce wants to be your experience universe. They've gone and bought ExactTarget, Pardo. They actually bought a CDP for marketing data, which is customer data platform. So they kind of want to be that experience system. And now Microsoft, on the other hand, would tell you that they're focused on customer journeys that span past traditional CRM. So Microsoft would say that in order to really deliver a robust customer end-to-end experience, you need to have the CRM part, you need to have the marketing part, but you also would need some financial data too. And I agree with them, along with Office, Power Apps, and Flow and all that stuff to drive experiences into one place. And so they're focused on that. And with their focus on that, I think they basically decided, why not partner with an experience company to be that experience layer for the marketing side? And that's really important, because I think if you go to battle against Salesforce without that, and you're thinking of an experience system, it's a little tougher to win. So that's kind of the way this battle is shaping up, with Salesforce and Google Analytics and things like that as an experience system versus Microsoft plus Adobe as an experience system that includes all the productivity tools and back office data.
Right. So yeah, it totally does. And so, but that brings up another question then. How does your traditional Microsoft practice pivot and move into this area, or even know how to bring in the right, I'm just going back in my mind of the demos, that would, 3-4 hour long demos that I would do to big corporate customers. And, marketing was a component of that, and we weren't strong in marketing. And then, so are you now kind of handling the Adobe story if you're doing a big engagement like that? Or are you basically bringing in Adobe expertise, subject matter experts on, the various part of the Adobe Marketing Cloud into those engagements with you? And then if you like doing a co-sale, what's your kind of operating model, for this new frontier in a way?
Well, we're a little bit lucky in that regard. I'm not saying you can't do it, because anybody can do it. If you think about the touch points across a customer journey, and we talked a pinch about this before, people don't just call a call center anymore. They go on Google or they go on YouTube, and and there's paid social search. And I told you the story about my dad's tax business before earlier.
Yeah.
And you can transform, he grew at 35% by stopping sending 10,000 letters a year, and by buying Facebook ads and Google AdWords. And there's a whole new kind of marketing that's happening. And our traditional sort of Dynamics 365 folks who are kind of focused on the Microsoft, you can't be focused on that kind of wrench turning and go talk to marketers. So for us, and I say that not to boast in any way, to say this is kind of what maybe there's some version of this that folks can do. We had a pinch of a head start. So we're owned by Accenture and Microsoft, and Accenture has Accenture Interactive, which is a very large agency inside of Accenture and a huge partner for Adobe already. And internal to Avanade, we have these things called digital studios that are focused a little more on Microsoft technologies only. So the cool thing is, if we didn't deploy $1 worth of Adobe's services, this is a new amazing channel for us. So you talked about that. How do we grow our businesses? How do we deliver more value? So we've got a whole Adobe customer base that we can sell into. So we've got a whole set of Dynamics customers we can sell Adobe to, and we've got new customers who are interested in converged sales and marketing solution that we can go sell to. So we're kind of lucky there. At the same time, I talk to our Adobe Alliance Manager at least twice a week. I've been to their summit, which is an amazing, as I mentioned, thing. I've also had a chance to spend some time in Utah with their industry experts, kind of comparing what we're building, like with healthcare and retail banking and things like that on that campus, going deeper there. And I'll actually be with a bunch more Adobe people and Accenture Interactive at Monday in New York. And you kind of have to commit to it, is the only advice I would give. I would say that an alliance or a partnership with a local marketing agency could help, and a commitment to it, because it's almost like we've all been into an industry situation where we're not familiar with it. And, we're sort of at best consciously competent, and the client can sniff that out. You have to go in and be unconsciously competent and just like know what the client's pains are as they're starting to unpack their story. And we're a little bit lucky in that regard that we have those experts that can help us along the way, and we can be the dynamics experts and they can help us with the marketing stuff.
Yeah, excellent. So how would you, if you're talking to a new customer and you wanted to sell the value proposition of Adobe Marketing Cloud and Microsoft Dynamics 365 and how that supports the customer experience, what are the big, the key points or the key things of why they need to take this as a viable option, for their organization? What are the type of stories you'd be telling them?
I like to personalize things a little bit because my own stories I remember. So think about the way, like if we were talking to a bank, a retail bank, and I think about like my dad and my wife and me and my son. I have a 24-year-old. And when my dad works with a bank, he works with a bank in person. He goes to the branch or he picks up the phone and calls. It's a very one-on-one personal. I work with Joan at, whatever blank bank. For my wife and me, we wrote one check that I know of this year. We had a guy work on our deck and we wrote him a check. Everything's online banking. And my son, on the other hand, has a checking account that he doesn't write checks and he uses debit card. But in terms of his savings and stuff, he has more money than I did when I was 24. But he uses these apps like Acorn and all these things that are online. And I think the banks have to kind of be thinking about their customers across all those channels. And if you just think about the branch, you're going to do well with my dad, but what happens when that new generation comes along and they're not thinking about traditional banks?
Yeah. So
the brilliant thing that Microsoft has done here is they've got Dynamics 365, and Adobe, which can marry the physical and the digital across these different personas. And we took that, kind of, let's say, canvas, and we built the solution along with the guys at Centra Interactive. And it basically, let's say a guy stops at an event and he gives us his business card. We can take that contact card, use Azure Machine Learning to drive a process that looks in CRM and says, hey, this guy, he's a customer already. That's great. And then it starts to enrich that profile with other lists. And it looks for other customer profiles that he might be similar to and interested in. And it starts to make offers automatically. They call that propensity modeling. We might see that he's renting and he lives in a place and is in a position that he maybe could buy the home for less than he's renting. And we can make that offer to him. And by using the stack that Microsoft gives us, along with Dynamics 365, Adobe, Azure Machine Learning, LinkedIn, all those kinds of things, we can create a more intelligent experience for that customer than I think anybody in the industry can do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it totally does. It totally does. So it really does allow like a customer service experience that's tailored really right down to the individual.
Absolutely. At scale. It's kind of like that little story that I told about my grandpa and me, except at a big scale. Because you remember, people, they don't compare us as partners against each other so much as they're comparing us against the best experience they're getting in the world. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I can get anything that I want that'll fit on my credit card tomorrow, or sometimes today, depending on what city I live in.
Yeah, exactly.
Through Amazon. And we as partners kind of have to be thinking about that, and our customers have to be thinking about that.
Yeah. So is there a piece of software, code, etc., that allows an integration between Dynamics 365 and Adobe, or is this something that each partner would need to kind of stitch together themselves?
No, there's a connector. There's a connector between Dynamics 365 and Adobe Campaigns.
Mm-hmm. And where would you find that? Who has it? Is it Microsoft has it, or is it Adobe that has the connector?
Yeah, okay. It was made that I know of in coordination with both of those guys. Now
Okay.
we've tweaked it for our clients ourselves, but like you said, you can use that as a starting point and work from there. Now there are two versions of Adobe. They've built it to the classic version of Adobe, which is one version. They have another version of Adobe Campaigns called Standard. I think they're working on an integration to that one.
Okay, so they're working on an integration to the second Adobe platform, but they already have one for the initial one. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Good to know. Good to know. I'm going to get you to flick me those links of where I can find those so I can put them in the show notes for people to take a look. So just back to putting your kind of looking outside your Avanade perspective and what you know of, the other partners, you've worked for a bunch of them. How do you reckon the traditional Microsoft practice, Dynamics practice, should engage with Adobe if they wanted to start building out their skills and go-to-market stories, etc., around, Adobe Marketing Cloud and Dynamics 365?
If I define perfect journey, I would, and you can only get this once a year. So if you want to do it now, I think it's in February, so you got to wait till February, but go to the summit. It's just a transformative, you get to see the scale of this thing. You think that Adobe is this small thing that will come alongside. No, it's as big as, I don't know, in market share and that kind of thing, but the conference and the focus around it are really big. It's as big as what we do. And that will give you the sense of what's in front of you, and both in terms of, wow, I got to be thinking about this. I've got to get serious about this if I want to do it. And maybe I need to have some alliances with other people. And as a partner, I've got to get to know Adobe as well. And Adobe will help you. They have this is really, really important to them. So remember that little sort of strategic thing that I talked about where Salesforce wants to be the experience system, and so does Adobe, along with Microsoft. For a long time, people thought of, well, Adobe will sell marketing to whoever. And yes, they do have an integration to Salesforce. They're starting more and more to see Salesforce as a very robust competitor, and Microsoft as their friend and their alliance. And so there's a whole section on the website with stuff to help Microsoft partners get up to speed. There's resources. You can, of course, download demos. You can see demos. They have something that I would love for us to do on the Microsoft side. They've got a set of robust use cases that are like start from the beginning and walk you through the whole customer journey and how Adobe has all the pieces. And they have use cases that involve Microsoft Dynamics too.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's really cool. And they have an alliance team that will help partners get up to speed. And I mentioned that they've been really, really helpful to me. And they have an enablement team as well that kind of will help you get the training and resources that you need. There's a lot on the web, but sorting it all out is kind of tricky sometimes. So on any website, and they'll help you get the assistance you need. And they have consulting arm too that maybe on the first few you want them to kind of lead it. You just kind of watch, and then over time you can step in and help. The other thing this is Chuck's recommendation. There's no book about this. I think that people should look at this as a channel, and maybe there's a local agency you meet at the Chamber of Commerce, things like that. Partnering with an agency, even if you do $0 of Adobe consulting, wrench turning, or revenue, you can find business that you weren't going to find anyway by looking into this. So I think it's really channel opportunity. We can get leads as partners by going out and talking to customers. We can partner with Microsoft, and we can work with other partners. And Adobe is a huge partner.
Yeah. So I went on record about a year ago saying, at what point is Microsoft going to acquire Adobe? Do you think that could ever be on the cards?
Their stock's up a lot, but
Who, Adobe's or Microsoft's?
Both.
Yeah, I know Microsoft is, right? Yeah, 3x growth in the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, you see a lot of what Salesforce is doing around acquisitions, and that could be a really, really compelling one if Microsoft decided to pull that trigger.
I think it's a no-brainer. I just think the synergies of the two companies, there's kind of almost no overlap, which makes it a really good story. And then, I was just interviewing someone the other day from LinkedIn that has, been in LinkedIn prior to the acquisition, and they just couldn't speak highly enough of the acquisition process. It's like, they're still their full autonomous business, but now they've got, all this open communication and engagement happening with Microsoft to generate new ideas, concepts, go to markets. And I'm just thinking, Adobe could be the same thing, still run a full business, but have this massive upside potential of the collaboration that could go on, as a single organization. So,
well, I had a chance to briefly meet their CEO, and he apparently was friends with Satya Nadella in school. And they continue to be friends. And here's how important I think this Microsoft thing is to him, is I was walking with a colleague later after we had met him before, and he calls out to us across the hallway and, hey, we got to get this going. And he's the CEO.
Yeah. Wow.
So I think whether they do, I don't know what they'll do financially, but I think the partnership is certainly important to them.
Yeah. I think it's
he definitely would not have remembered me personally, but he remembered the relationship and that we were the guys that were there talking about Adobe and Microsoft together.
Excellent. That's so good. So just one last question on the connector side of things. Is there, what does the connector do at the moment? Is it purely just a transfer of touch points between, let's say, the contact and account entities and whatever in the Adobe Marketing Cloud? Or is it something a bit more sophisticated than that? As in, this is the out-of-the-box connector, not your modified one.
Yeah, we did a little more with it. But it basically, it maps the entities in Microsoft Dynamics to their corresponding entities in Adobe. And it works. We've sold it. We've used it. We've got our own piece that we've added on top of it. And I'm not an architect, but I'll give you the basics. It basically maps campaign profiles and segments and emails in Adobe to our campaigns in Microsoft Dynamics and schedules and marketing lists and activities in 365.
Awesome.
Yeah, so it does that. I think they've got some big plans around doing some more, even like on CDS.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
With Adobe. The partnership is, it sounds corny, but it seems to be very much real.
Yeah. Good. Okay, so now I'm going to ask a question off topic, and it's off topic in that it's not about Adobe Marketing Cloud, but it's about Dynamics 365 marketing. Mm-hmm. Have you had a chance to work with that product, take it to market at all? And do you have any thoughts or insights around what you think around Dynamics 365 for marketing?
I've only seen it at conferences. And we've played with it, but we've not implemented it for a customer. We tend to be kind of more upper mid-market and enterprise. And I think what they've done is a good first step around campaigns. And I love that they included events. I think, kind of for these big enterprise customers and upper mid-market customers, for me and for what they're asking us, it's a little bit more about a bigger scale and about the whole journey. And what I would love to see what Microsoft focus on, even at the mid-market and lower, is marketing isn't just sending emails and events. It's about that entire journey. That people, over 50% of people say they still love to get emails once they've opted into something. But about 60% of the decision, I think we discussed earlier, is made before they even call us. So there's this whole journey that happens before they contact us. And I would love to see that doesn't get tracked if you just were to use the Microsoft Dynamics for marketing or many other systems, I might add. And if with all of Microsoft's resources, having some kind of marketing and sort of customer journey experience type people focused on that, and they may well have them. But I think that they could really have something that would be a little different for the mid-market than the competition that we would face would have. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. Okay, we'll park that topic.
Yeah, and, we hope we'll continue to add to that solution for sure.
Yeah. So this back on Adobe Marketing Cloud. What resources do you recommend for partners wanting to kind of get up to speed? You talked about you need to go to the conference in February. What other resources are available out there that partners, if they're going to get serious about this and want to make an informed decision, apart from the conference, what else?
If you go to adobe.com, there's a section that you can go to. You log in and you create an ID, and they have a whole section for partners that's every bit as robust as what we see inside of Partner Source.
Yep.
Yeah. That could be,
Yes.
It's their equivalent of that.
Right. I know what you mean.
Yeah, and I don't think you have to sign up to be a partner to do it, but I don't think that's a big cost or anything like that to do that. And of course, you can call the Adobe folks and become a partner through that and start to work with their alliance team. So they've got a ton, because they're they say we're going to help you become an experienced company. So they try their best to be one. So they try for their content to be pretty good. Yeah.
Okay. So another question here I have about, let's say I'm an existing well-established Dynamics partner. I have got a opportunity well in flight with a Dynamics opportunity in the enterprise sales, so multi-million-dollar type scenario, and you find out they've got Adobe Marketing Cloud as their tool of choice from a marketing perspective, and they have 30, 40 odd staff just dedicated to marketing that organization. What would your advice be to a partner in that situation as to how to make sure that a cohesive story is being generated across how these two technologies could work well together? What would your advice be to that partner?
Well, making sure the customer knows about the alliance between Microsoft and Adobe, because marketers may or may not be on the same page as the IT department relative to Microsoft. You're going to see a lot of Apple computers, and they may or may not go to Dreamforce and things like that. So making sure that they understand the value proposition. And since if the idea is that they already have Adobe, making sure they understand that there's a robust integration built, and there's more funding being poured into this integration, and kind of getting Adobe involved to reinforce that message would be my first advice.
Yeah. Excellent. So before you get on to some quick fire questions, a last question for you is looking at the future between Adobe Marketing and Microsoft Dynamics. What excites you?
What excites me about is being able to, I told you that little story about my dad's business. And I'll tell you, a pinch more is at Christmas time, my dad told me he has a tax business, and he was a mailman. He was spending $10,000 a year for his clients, sending letters. And he said, well, what can I do different? And we decided to send just a few letters and do Facebook ads and do Google ads. And we changed his business. It grew 35%. He's 72 years old. It changed his business from from the same way it's been for 30, 40 years by thinking differently around marketing. And it wasn't necessarily campaigns. So what excites me on that little scale, and that's a personal story, to think about how big companies can change their brands. I mean, nobody wants the customers I talk to, they don't want to be Blockbuster. They don't want to get, remember every Friday night we would all go to Blockbuster and I got to send my wife early, or I'll go early to get the good movie, and then it's gone. We have to think about the next company that's going to disrupt our business and get untangled from the infrastructure that we're in now and start to think like entrepreneurs and these new kind of customer focused digital entrepreneurs. And that having this platform that can drive customer experiences from beginning all the way through the cycle really, really excites me about what we can do with Adobe and Microsoft together.
Yeah, awesome. Awesome. Okay. It's been a great conversation. You ready for the quick fire?
You. Sounds good.
Okay. What motivates you?
Changing the way we engage with our customers to get outcomes for customers and businesses versus project outcomes. I mentioned it earlier, but that's what I get out of bed for. I love it.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. What's on your radar right now that really excites you?
I want to repeat that just a little bit and make it bigger. And if I were typing this, I'd do the smile emoji because it's a big goal. But I would like it transforming CRM from projects to customers and outcomes, and transforming the way consulting companies think about culture from resources to people. The happiest people I know live lives that are about service. And the little bit older I get, the more I'm focused on having a vision, like this vision we just talked about, transforming CRM from projects to customers and outcomes, and focusing on moving from resources to people and things like that, and having a bit of a vision and helping the team to see the opportunity for them in that vision and serving the team. And the more I do that, the more and the less internally focused, the more happy I get and excited I get.
Fantastic, fantastic. What do people never ask you that you kind of wish they did?
I try to remember to ask them everybody this question, and I wish more people did it, and maybe not necessarily to me, but in general. I was reading some book back in the late 80s, I think it was, and it was Lou Holt, the old football coach, said that no matter who he meets with, at the end of the meeting, he says, "What can I do for you?" And I've asked that question. I try to remember to do it every time, and sometimes I forget, but so many good things have happened to me because of that. So I kind of wish, I don't know if I want them to ask me what I can do for them, but I think if more people ask that question, we would be more service focused, one, and we would help each other too.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
I like it.
That's what came to mind, at least.
It's good. I like it. I like the diverseness you get with these questions. What's your best purchase under $100?
I bought a lot of cool widgets, but I have to say, and I'm going to explain it, a bag of rocks.
Okay.
Year before last, at my last organization, we had a conference, and it was at the ocean. And at the end of our meeting, we really wanted to drive a message home to the team. And I bought a bag of rocks, and it was actually a coworker, Mike Houck's idea. And we wrote on the rocks, and each team member wrote it, what they wanted to throw away.
Awesome.
And it could be not to focus on my own billing and chargeability and to help others, or, whatever it was. And we had everybody threw that rock in the ocean. And we had another rock, and they wrote on what they did want to focus on, and they kept that rock.
Oh, that's so cool.
And it seemed like people remembered that for a long time. Yeah, so it seemed pretty cool.
I love it.
So a bag of rocks.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay, my final question. Who do you recommend as a guest on the podcast in the future?
You know who I really enjoyed spending time in, and last time we spoke, I mentioned I loved her book, and her name is Robbie Kellerman Baxter, and she wrote a book called The Membership Economy.
Right. Yep.
And she advocates us thinking about customers as not transactions, but customers. And not only that, but help them to feel like they're members of a club. Almost like the thing I described with my grandpa.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think she's not a dynamics person per se.
No.
She's super interesting.
Yeah, I read the book after you recommended
cool.
it last
Thank
time.
you.
I try to always read the people I interviews, book recommendations, and so I definitely read that. And yeah, so much great stuff in there, and just how always looking at how then do you apply it to your own business relationships and or business operating models, particularly with that book. Chuck, it's been great to have you on the show. Before you go, if people want to find you, where can they reach out to you online?
I'm on LinkedIn, and I'm also on Twitter. Twitter, CRM Rocks with a W, RAWKS.
That is awesome.
Yeah. And of course, email chuck.ingram@avanade.com.
You've been listening to the Dynamics 365 show. Please consider subscribing to the feed on any great podcast player. Your host is Business Applications MVP Mark Smith, otherwise known as the NZ365 guy. Yeah, that's me. Please check out my YouTube channel. It's now easily accessible at youtube.com/NZ365 guy. For show notes or to discuss anything covered on the show, please go to nz365guy.com/34. And I look forward to having you listen next time.